Well, you and Tupac are close. Done an interview out of jail. You're in his music video. You guys are cool. But then in 1996, Pac goes out to see the Tyson fight.
Correct.
Ends up stomping out this one guy from the Southside Crips over a stolen death row chain. And the chain of events happens.
In one night.
Where, according to Keefe D, they go and get a gun, and they find him in traffic. They open fire. Pac gets killed.
Right.
When you heard the news, how did you feel?
Bro, I could tell you my heart dropped. And I will never forget this. I was on a plane. I was flying from New York to LA. And this is when we had these pagers. I don't know if you remember, I'm gonna date myself. But back then, I don't know if it was SkyTel. You couldn't get a page, but you could get the news. You would get like it was scroll, news would come across, blah, blah. So when you were landing, you would get all your stuff would start coming through, right? So it said, rapper Tupac Shakur shot in Las Vegas at the fight. I land, skirt, everybody's looking at their pages. All the people are on phone calls, like people are doing all this crazy stuff at baggage claim. And I'm like, yo, is this shit real? Is this shit real? I was like, how the fuck Tupac get shot tonight? Like at a fight in front of everybody? I'm thinking he got shot like at the fight. Like I didn't know what the events were. Back then we didn't have, videos and stuff. We could only go by whispers and phone calls. I had, for some reason, maybe I'm stupid, I said he gonna survive.
Well, we all thought that because he'd already gotten shot at Quad.
Yeah.
He made songs about it. 5 shots couldn't stop me. It took a smile.
I was like, listen, he is the one person, if there's anybody that can live through this, it's him.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, that praying that would be the case. And I was like, for a minute, I don't know if you remember, there was no information.
No.
There was no information whether he was alive, were they keeping him alive, or what was going. So it was probably like 2 or 3 days, and then it was like, he's gone.
Yeah.
Damn, that was crazy. It was like the biggest, it was, at that time, it was like I lost my brother, bro, real talk. I'm gonna tell you what's crazy. I still had his voice on a message he left for me. This is like where you used to get the beep, and he'd be like, yo, man, I'm down here, man. I'm in LA. Come fuck with me. I'm on the set, man. I'm a movie star too, motherfucker. Like, he just leave some old random funny shit, Yep.
Well,
true story.
Well, you fast forward to 2024, and Keefe D is currently in jail awaiting the trial for his involvement in Tupac's murder. And, I did sort of the first detailed Keefe D interview where we laid out the whole story from how he grew up to his connection, to his nephew, Orlando Anderson, to what happened before, what happened that night. He was in the car when the shooting happened, to the aftermath.
Right.
When you heard that whole story laid out like that, did you already know it the whole time, or was it, I didn't know that, or this is a little bit of a surprise?
It was so, Tupac's story was so mythical. It was like a movie that didn't have an ending or something, like where everyone was wondering what the ending would be like. What's the word? What really happened? Like, okay, he was in the car, and then how did they catch him? How did they find his car? Like, there were so many different question marks about the whole thing for years. Like, you got to understand, it was probably like 15, 20 years of sitting on what ifs. What is that? What is this? Who was this? Who was that? So when Keefe D did that interview and he just started like, talking, I was like, wow, what if is that true? I don't know. Then certain people said it is, and then certain people was like, no. So I didn't really know which way to take it. And then I'm like, somebody had to be in them other cars. Like, I could never understand. To this day, if you go back and you just do the Las Vegas Boulevard situation, how do you get out of there, bro? How do you get out of traffic? How do you go? There's got to be a car behind you. There's got to be a car to the side. There's got to be somebody that saw. There's got to be people on the sidewalk. How is it just nobody saw nothing, bro?
Well, okay, so to answer your questions, what had happened was Pac was going one direction. They were going to Club 662, and they had a caravan of cars. They, Keefe and Orlando and the two other guys, Big Dre and I forgot the other guy's name, they were essentially looking for him. They went to Club 662, didn't see him, and then they, were driving around looking for him. Pac was hanging out the window hollering at some girls.
So
the girls like, Tupac.
Oh my God.
And I remember even talking to Edie where all these years he thought maybe it was like a setup, the girls set him up, but no, it was just, Pac loved women. So he had some women fans, they're like, oh, Tupac. So he was hanging out the window, frolicking with the girls. And that's how they saw him.
Wow. But how about this? You see him, how you gonna make a U-turn?
Well, they were going the opposite direction when they rolled up on him. So it wasn't as crowded that direction. And they took off, and then, one of, I think it was Buntry, ended up chasing him, and the shots were fired, and, there was some shooting back and forth, but they got away. There were no cameras. This is 96.
There was no street cameras.
Yeah, there was no satellites.
No camera phones.
There was no camera phones. Yeah. It was nothing. It happened, and then they got away. And, the story I did with Keefe, it matches up all the other stories from, like, Chris Carroll, the first respondent, Idi Amin, who was in the car behind him. Like, it all fit together. There was no, Pac is not in Cuba. The FBI didn't have him killed. Like, it was a set of bad events dealing with people. Orlando was being investigated for 2 murders at the time that this happened.
Wow.
So this is a guy who had a history of shooting people. So you go and stomp out a guy from the Crips, and he has a chance to get back. What do you expect to happen?
Yeah.
Pac, I've always said this, Pac should not have done that. He had people around him that could do it for him. He took it upon himself to
handle it.
Out of just loyalty and, whatever other reason.
When you look at that video, that was a pretty violent.
Oh yeah, no, they stomped him out badly.
That was crazy. Like that part was on camera though.
Yeah, Suge Knight went back to prison for violating probation over that situation because he was kicking Orlando, and he was on probation already, so he went back to prison after that.
Wow.
It's a whole. Yeah, it was
a lot.
It was a clusterfuck. That was in the worst situation.
That was really a heartbreaking hip hop.
It was.
Yeah,
it was.